Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. My name is AJ, here to take you through a number of funny stories today. If you want to carry on hearing me rant and rave and talking about how the world has gone crazy, then don't forget to subscribe. If you have subscribed, make sure you like and share and do whatever you can to help the algorithm. Really appreciate it. Anyway, seems like Amber Heard has become more hated than Putin apparently. Or maybe people don't really hate Putin. Maybe people are waking up to the fact that they just don't like liars. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I don't know if any of you have been following this case, but I just don't believe her. I just do not believe her. There are genuine women out there who are victims of domestic abuse, and when you hear their stories, you genuinely believe them that they have been abused, by people, by the husbands or boyfriends, and you genuinely believe them. But this woman, I just can't believe her. I mean, I just can't. I'm sorry to say, and all of the evidence that she's showing, I just can't see it. I mean, there's talk about her editing, pictures, and there was one of these experts that came in and said he was looking at the pictures and he found out that the picture's been edited, and the fact that after she said she got abused, the day after she was in the James Corbyn show and there was no marks on her body, on her face, and the makeup artist that was working on the show had said that, Amber Heard didn't have any bruises, she's lying. And the makeup brand that she said she was using, the makeup brand didn't even come out at the time. There's just lies after lies after lies. I just don't believe it. I'm just sorry to say, guys. I know some of you might be fans of Amber Heard, but I just find her a liar. Sometimes you can tell liars. I mean, you just have to look at Zelensky. You got to look at Schultz. You got to look at Boris. Just the way they lie. Serial liars. This world is full of liars. You got Biden. You got so many politicians, so many people just lying after lies, fake news after fake news after fake news. Look, I'm not saying that Johnny Depp is a complete angel. They're both as bad as each other. But Johnny Depp is the one that got punished for it. He lost all of these film deals, Pirates of the Caribbean, Crimes of Grindelwald, the Fantastic Beast. He's not been in a film role for years because of these allegations, and he's lost all of his reputation. While she's been getting really, really good roles like Aquaman and Justice League, Aquaman 2, her career was booming. This was in the time of the Me Too days when any woman can accuse a man of anything and the man would be immediately guilty for it without even going through court. It's still like that at the moment in Twitter. People are just getting cancelled left, right and centre. You don't need any evidence these days. All you have to do is point your finger and say, this man did it, this man did this to me, and that's it. Guilty as charged. Ruin his career, cancel him. This kind of stuff that needs to be stopped, there's real victims out there. I just don't see her as a real victim. I think she gave as good as she got and probably gave even more. It would have been easier, much easier, if she just shut the hell up, after the divorce. If you divorce, that's it, move on with your lives. He moves on, you move on, find someone else. Why did she have to go to the chat show and say that Johnny Depp, abused her or assaulted her? Why did she have to go along that route? And because of that, his career got ruined. And then she couldn't turn back after that. She couldn't backtrack what she said. She had to go all in. This is exactly what's happening with Ukraine. Exactly what's happening in Ukraine. These dumb politicians, sanctioned Russia, sanctioned themselves. They can't really walk back. They can't really go backwards. So what they do, they double up. They keep sanctioning over and over again. They double up and double up and double up. And this is what's happened to Amber Heard. She couldn't back down. She said something she shouldn't have on a chat show, and she had to double up over and over again, and it's led to this. It's led to this, and the whole world is watching. I think her career is over, and let that be a lesson to all of the liars out there. If you're going to lie about stuff, then this is what you deserve. And the same thing will happen to all of the other lies around the world. All of these politicians, papers, diplomats, lying about the Ukraine war, lying about all this stuff. Eventually the truth will come out. Truth always comes out. Now the truth came out about the Iraq weapons of mass destruction. Truth came out about the Iraqi war crimes with WikiLeaks. Truth came out about what's been happening in Guantanamo Bay, and eventually truth comes out. You just can't keep a lie secret for life. You just can't. Eventually the truth will come out. Sometimes it comes out late, but it comes out eventually. You just can't hide it. Only history will be the judge whether you've been lying or whether you've been telling the truth. Anyway, guys, let's move on to the geopolitics stories. Asia outpaces Europe as a top Russian oil buyer. So like I said in my previous videos, Russia does not need Europe anymore to sell its oil. It doesn't need Europe anymore to sell its gas. Asia is the next big thing at the moment. You see how Asian economies are growing. Their GDP is outgrowing Europe at the moment. So Russia does not need Europe. And then you have European leaders, these fools arguing about Russian oil embargo, sitting in a round table, arguing with each other, getting really excited. It's almost like a pack of school kids watching two girls fight. When you see two girls fight in a school kid and all these other kids, basically crowding around them and saying, fight, 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 yeah, 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 getting really excited. So this is exactly how these European leaders are, sitting around a table going, yeah, yeah, embargo, sanction, oil, embargo, yeah, 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 getting really excited. And then you got Hungary's Orban standing up saying no. And they're like, nah, get rid of him. It's just a bunch of school kids. Do they not see the reality? Do they not know what's happening around the world? Russia do not need to sell oil to them. And if they do go ahead with this ridiculous oil embargo, you can kiss Europe's economy goodbye. That's it. The end. Finito. When you see kids fighting in a playground, you're not gonna start giving them weapons, are you? This is exactly what the Europeans are doing to Ukraine. They're giving them weapons. If you're an adult, you need to stand in between. Start mediating. Stop the fighting on both sides. Start pushing for peace. But the Europeans are giving them weapons. If two kids are fighting, they're giving them axes, guns, rockets. Just doesn't make any sense. Just think about it. UK Prime Minister proposes that Ukraine join new alliance. So I don't know what to say about Boris, to be honest. This guy, he's on his last legs in UK, and I'm surprised he's still he's still a leader. I'm surprised he's still a leader. Scandal after scandal after scandal. His team are a bunch of porn watchers, drug dealers, drug takers, RAPE-ists. The list just goes on. People that cheat. Like you have Nick Hancock, you have Liz Truss. Even Boris cheated on his partner. Boris has been married God knows how many times. He's got so many kids with so many different partners. Seriously, what a bunch of jokers. What a bunch of jokers. Oh my god, this is like the worst admin. This is like a parody. You know, he said he wants to be like Churchill, but he's more and more like Benny Hill rather than Churchill. And it's like watching a Benny Hill show watching him at work. I just can't believe it. I mean, this is like a sitcom. This is like a David Brent sitcom. I don't know if many of you have seen The Office. It's very similar to that. I just can't believe it. And Zelensky, who says that, you know, Prime Minister Boris is Ukraine's best friend. You know, they're welcome to have him. They're welcome to have him. He's going to get sacked soon, so he's got a job waiting for him in Ukraine. Maybe he probably thinks he's already a leader of Ukraine. He's leading them up the garden path. When Zelensky was nearly having a peaceful chat with the Russians and they were talking about having a peaceful settlement, Boris flew all the way from Britain in his private jet, you know, sat down with Zelensky, promised him the world, saying, oh, we're going to give you weapons, you're going to win, you know, we'll give you whatever you want, just don't surrender. And idiotic Zelensky believed him and cancelled all peace talks with Russia. And Boris was talking about the same hymn tune all the time. He was saying, oh, Ukraine's going to win, Ukraine's going to win, blah, blah, blah. Ukraine's going to be free. Oh, my God. And now that Ukraine is losing, the media is completely not interested in Ukraine anymore. It's yesterday's news. People have a very, very short attention span. Very short attention span. People get bored very easily. So now he's talking about Ukraine joining a new alliance with the Baltic states. They're not even they're even ignoring France and Germany. It's just ridiculous. Who comes up with these ideas? Only Boris can come up with these ridiculous ideas. I mean, seriously, the less I talk about this, the better. This guy is on another planet. I want to show you this as well. So the British warships could be sent in to protect freighters carrying crucial Ukrainian grain and break Putin's blockade of the Black Sea port that is threatening to cause a world food crisis. So he's thinking of sending British warships into the Black Sea. You know what's going to happen, right? These British warships will be sunk in an instant. They're not going to go anywhere near Odessa port or anywhere near the Black Sea. What the hell is it thinking about? Does it think the Black Sea is international waters, is free? He can send his British warships wherever he wants? This is a time of war. If British warships are seen near the Black Sea, near Crimea, near Odessa, they would be sunk out of the water. Russia would not take kindly to British warships coming near them, and especially if they're British. I'll tell you what, right now, the Russians are waiting for this. They're really, really waiting for this to happen. Because they hate the British right now. They hate Boris. They would love to put one up on him. Love to. So yeah, I'd like to see if this really happens, which I doubt. Anyway, let's move on, guys. Russia ramps up crude sales to India, and I've said again, Russia does not need Europe anymore. They're ramping up sales to India, they're ramping up sales to China, they're ramping up sales to Asia, and especially with the high, prices of oil, high prices of gas, Russia's laughing. They're laughing all the way to the bank. And the price of ruble has gone up as well. And they are laughing. They're making tons of money at the moment. Tons of money. So what happened to Biden's promise when he stood in front of the world press and the American people, and he's saying that Russian economy is going to collapse, Russian ruble is going to collapse, it's going to turn into rubble? What happened to that speech? This is the same speech Biden gave when he was talking about Taliban not coming into Afghanistan. They're not going to take over Afghanistan. He promised that to the American people. 2 weeks later, Taliban took over Afghanistan. Can you believe any word this man says? Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And Indians are playing this very, very smart. Very smart. Because they know that the Americans and the Europeans will not do anything to India right now. They cannot. Do you know why? Because they've seen how they pushed Russia and China close together. They have seen how they pushed Russia and China close over the years. Russia and China were never friends. There was a time when, they had huge border issues, and, China basically also, was against Russia for quite a long time. Russia took a lot of Chinese territory as well. There was a lot of issues between Russia and China, but they've worked it out. They've worked it out because they know that the real enemy is not each other. The real enemy is the West, America. And China knows this. So China actually sorted out all of the border issues with Russia. And they have lost land to Russia, but they don't care because they see the big picture. The bigger picture is Taiwan. Taiwan is more important to them. It's very important to them. They see the big picture and they know they need Russia's help when it comes to Taiwan, and also when it comes to the future and the new world order. They need Russia, and China and Russia worked it out. And if America starts sanctioning India, and same as the Europeans, Indians will start, joining hands with China as well. India will say, you know what, screw the West, let's work out our border issues right now with China and become friends, and let's move on. And if China, India and Russia, become friends, and you have a huge power. You have 1.4 billion people in China, 1.4 billion people in India, and you have the huge land space of Russia. Can you imagine the power vacuum? Can you imagine the power of that part of the world? That is a worst nightmare. So this is why they can't do anything to India. They can't put any sanctions. And India know this. India is very, very highly coveted at the moment. You see all of these European leaders going to India, trying to woo Modi. You have all these Americans going there. You have Boris going there, all trying to woo the Indians into their side. It's just not going to work. It is not going to work. India still hasn't forgotten about the colonial days. They do not trust the West. Trust me, they do not trust the West. But they also don't trust China. But they have a decision to make. They can either go with the West, go with China, or play against each other. If they're very, very clever about this, they can end up as a winner. But I'm not sure if they are very clever about this. But we're going to see. We're going to see how India plays these deck of cards. But one thing that the Indians know is the West cannot do anything to them right now. They cannot afford India. They cannot afford to lose India to Russia, lose India to China. They cannot afford for India, Russia and China to form a friendship. They just can't afford it. Ukraine admits major defeat. So as you know, they are losing more and more ground. They are losing more people every day. It's a shame, really. Ukraine has been pushed down the garden path, and It's a shame. Ukraine is losing so many young soldiers. These are young men of Ukraine who are being sacrificed as lambs to the slaughter. It's a real shame, guys, and I've already spoken about this many times. It's having an amazing economy, and they've cut the interest rate, and it's almost back to how it was before. And you can see they've cut it down from 14% to 11%. It was at 10%, and they increased it to 20% after the sanctions hit, and slowly it went back to 14% and now 11%. So they're almost back to where they were. So the Russian interest rates are really going well. Putin is spending a lot of money in Russia at the moment. He's giving money to pensions, and inflation is going down. The ruble is going up. And then you've got idiotic channels such as, I can't remember what his name was, but Joe Blogs, he was saying, oh, Russian ruble's crashing, Russian economy's crashing. That guy was my hero. I thought, yeah, he's got a good channel. But suddenly he just turned to the dark side. I'm thinking, what the hell is he talking about? Does he not know basic economics? You know, it's a shame that. I thought he was a really good channel. I was following him for a while until he started, you know, going off along the Western narrative like most people do. Obviously unsubscribed. Anyway, let's move on. There's a safe passage opening through the Azov Sea, through Mariupol. Russia has announced they've had a great wheat harvest this year. A great wheat harvest, so they are obviously sending out wheat across the world. I don't think they're going to be sending it out to the unfriendly countries. They're going to focus on the friendly countries first. And if the unfriendly countries want to buy wheat from Russia, they're going to have to go along the same way that Russia is selling gas, which is rubles, using rubles. So I can see that happening over the next few months. There will be a huge wheat shortage in the world in the next few months. So if you guys haven't already prepared, I would suggest you start preparing. Get yourself some rice and pasta. Keep as much dry food as possible in your house, because there will be a time when all of this will, you know, disappear. The funny thing is, in this article, the Russian reserves frozen by EU is much smaller than expected. So people were talking about 300 billion of Russia's money got missing or got kept by Europeans and the Americans. But now they are saying it's much smaller, and it's only 1/10 of the total assets we're talking about. And they're talking about around 24.5 billion or 23 billion, which is far less than 300 billion. And guess what? With the rising oil costs and the rising gas prices and the rise of the ruble, Russia has already made more than this. Much more. So whatever they want to do with this money, they can do it. They can keep it, sell it, because Russia has probably made 20 or 30 times this amount of the last few months. Because of the rising gas, because of the rising cost of oil, because of the rising cost of the ruble, Russia is swimming with money at the moment. Swimming with money. Seriously, these reporters, I remember a few months ago, they were frothing at the mouth, thinking, yeah, we've taken 300 billion of Russia's reserves. What about all of the money that the Western companies are losing in Russia? You know, if you work out the money that Western companies have lost in Russia compared to what Russia has lost in the central bank, you'd see, you know, Russia is actually making a profit. You know, all of these news articles are now starting to talk the truth and tell the truth. A few months ago, they were going along with the narrative. Oh, we can't speak the truth. We gotta put a story out saying Russia's ruble's turning into rubble. We gotta say that Russia's economy is collapsing. We gotta say that. But sir, that's not the case. I don't care. Just post it. Just write it. You know what I mean? It's just now that people are bored of Russia and people are bored of Ukraine, you will see over the next few days a lot of truth stuff coming out of the Western papers. So going back to China, the US is launching a new China house. Sounds like a Chinese takeaway, to be honest. They might as well launch a new Chinese takeaway in the White House. They'll have much more better feedback from it. At least they'll have nice food. And this China house is basically going to be run by a bunch of bozos. The same bozos that I've been talking about, the Chinese, US, Taiwan war in my last video. Is probably going to be the same sort of bozos from the same probably company. Who knows? And the US is looking to leverage the bloc opposed to Russia's war in Ukraine against China. So you can see here, US Secretary of State has said that Biden administration aims to lead the international bloc opposed to the Russia's invasion of Ukraine into a broader coalition to counter what it seems as a more serious long-term threat to global order from China. So basically, the stupid Europeans and the Japanese and a few other dumb countries who are following the US blindly, basically they want to use the same countries to form a coalition against China. So as long as Ursula von der Leyen is in power, she'll probably say yes. And obviously the Japanese PM will say yes. All of these Western fools who follow the Americans through every path, through thick and thin. If the Americans say, jump over this cliff for me, they'll do it. They will do it. You know, there's no doubt. I have no doubt that US will basically get all of these countries together, form a coalition against China, and they'll probably do it. You know, it doesn't matter if these countries have China as the number one trading partner. It doesn't matter. You know, they will gladly destroy their own economy to follow the Americans whichever way they want. They're already destroying the economy with all these ridiculous sanctions on Russia, and now they want to do the same against China. So let's see how far they go, shall we? Japan and US in joint flight after China drill and North Korean missiles. So this is the funny thing, right? Biden went to Asia, and he went to Japan, he went to a few other countries in Asia, South Korea as well. And he came up with this ridiculous, basically ridiculous trade deal, which is not really a trade deal. It's more like a gang against China. And this trade deal basically involved every single South Asian country, ASEAN country, but there's only one country missing from it. That's China. So basically it's a trade bloc, but without China in it. Only thing is, it's not really a trade bloc. And the Japanese got really confused, saying, hang on a second, what kind of deal is this? What is this? It doesn't really work. Why don't America just join the TCPPP and we do it that way? And all of these ASEAN countries looked at it and they thought, no, we don't want to be part of that. We don't want to be part of this ridiculous trade deal that doesn't have China, and it's not really a trade deal because it only benefits the US. It doesn't benefit any other country. And Biden is there sitting with the Japanese counterpart. He's obviously talking about militarily joining in a fight with Taiwan in the in the Taiwanese Strait, and basically Biden opening his mouth. He's done it a few times. And what China and Russia have been doing, they've been doing joint patrols, and they've been doing these bomber patrols along the Japanese Sea, along the Korean Sea, along the Taiwanese Strait as well. And this shows you one message, that the Russian and the Chinese are very, very strong militarily. And now they have joined basically an alliance where they're doing these bombing runs together. And this must be really scary for America and all its allies. Now you have China and Russia jointly flying planes over Japan, over South Korea, over Taiwan, and also around Asia. And that should be sending a big signal, not just to America, but also to the West, that, they have brought China and Russia so close together now that they are better than a military alliance. They're doing joint bombing runs together. And that must be scaring the life out of the West. That must be scaring the life out of America, especially the Japanese. So what do they do in return? The Japan and the US go on a joint jet flight along the Japanese Sea. Who cares? Who cares? Everybody knows there's American soldiers, 50,000 of them in Okinawa with F-35s. Whatever America does from there, Japan follows. It doesn't really matter. Japan is a little poodle state of America. That's not the point. That's always been there. That has always been there. America has always been controlling Japan. But the dangerous thing about geopolitics now, you have Chinese and Russian planes flying, together. And soon you will see Russian and Chinese military units who are going to be very much coordinated together, and they're also exchanging a lot of technology. They are doing a lot. It's like Putin said, like President Xi said, this is better than a military alliance, much better. And I can see this even going further out, and I can see China and Russia developing Asian NATO of themselves. I can see that happening over the next few years. And I think there are talks happening already to counter NATO and have an Asian NATO of themselves and completely kick out America's influence in Asia. Completely will kick that out. And Americans and the Japanese, and especially the new Korean leader. The new Korean leader is very, very pro-US. And because of his pro-US stance and because of his very, very aggressive manner to North Koreans were tested 3 different missiles while Biden was having a meeting in Japan. 3 different missiles they launched. So you see, Biden didn't really have a good time in Asia. You have North Korea firing missiles while he was there. You have China and Russia together flying planes over South Korea, flying planes over Japan. He did not have a good time at all. Not at all. So he came back to America and he started pushing for UN sanctions against North Korea for testing missiles. And guess what? Russia and China together vetoed it. Absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. You might as well just forget about it. You're not going to get any other sanctions on North Korea. And because of all of this stuff that's happening, Russia and China will be happy to provide weapons to North Korea and give them technology, help their economy. Why not? So you see this story. South Korea is looking to join the Quad. So you have the new South Korean president who reminds me of that guy who sings Gangnam Style. I don't know if you guys remember Gangnam Style. He looks very similar to that guy who sings it. So he's come out and he's very, very aggressive to the North Koreans, very aggressive to the Chinese. He's talking about joining the Quad. He said he's open for an invitation. He's waiting for an invitation. He's talking about having more American missiles in South Korea. He's also talking about, he's not talking about, he actually agreed for NATO to be part of South Korean cyber defense. So he's involving NATO. He's talking about joining Quad. He's having a lot of missiles which are going to be placed in South Korea. He's looking to join forces, have peace talks with Japan. So you see, he's making moves which are very, very anti-Chinese, and this is not going to go down too well. It's not going to go down too well at all. So what the Chinese going to do in return? Well, if this carries on, they can forget about China, persuading North Korea to do anything. You know, they were very, very close a few years ago with the Chinese helping disarm North Korea, and they were very close. And I think they were so close to coming to a deal, and in the end it didn't go ahead because I think Trump met up with North Korea, and he had other plans. North Koreans don't really trust the Americans, and the Americans were asking for too much, so it didn't really go ahead. But China was there as a negotiating partner, as a neutral partner, so they can forget about that ever happening. And if they're going to put all these missiles in South Korea, what do you think China's going to do then? You know, they're going to help arm North Korea even more. They're going to help arm North Korea. They're going to give them more weapons. They're going to give them more technology to counterbalance what the South has. And it's just not helping things at all. It's just not helping things. It's just escalating more and more, And the fact that North Korea has joined NATO, you know, cyber defense, it's just one of these first steps that a country takes before becoming a full member of NATO. And you don't even have to be a NATO member these days. Look at Ukraine. NATO has been arming Ukraine for years. Even though Ukraine has not been a NATO member. They've been training Ukrainian soldiers, training them in NATO weapons, sending weapons to Ukraine. You know, they're probably going to be doing the same thing in South Korea. Who knows? Who knows? This is just going to antagonize China even more. And it's going to push them to build more weapons. It's going to push them to point more missiles at South Korea. It's just not going to help things. It's just not going to help things at all. And I think it's going along the wrong direction. Anyway, guys, that's all I have time for today. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to share, subscribe, like, whatever you can to help support the channel. If you really want to support me, you're welcome to join my Patreon, or you can buy me a coffee. I'd really appreciate it. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next show. Thanks, guys. See you soon.